Hello students, today we are going to discuss the intensive properties from the thermodynamics chapter and the slides which I have selected from the Narayana NEET book, grade 11 chemistry. So let us see what is meaning of intensive properties, student. So in simple terms, intensive properties do not depend on the amount of substance. So let us see the first line. It is the property of substance that does not depends on the quantity or size of the matters, okay, in the system. So if any properties which is not depending on the quantity or the size of the matter, that is what is known as intensive properties. Okay, if you are going with the example, you will be able to find the density. Density is intensive properties. How can you say density is intensive properties, student? That is, density is mass per unit volume. So mass per unit volume never get changed, student. So it is always constant, okay, no matter how much quantity is there. So since it is not depending on the quantity or size of the matter, so density is intensive property. Molar properties, such as molar volume, molar entropy, molar heat capacity, surface tension, viscosity, specific heat, refractive index, pressure, temperature, boiling point, freezing point, vapor pressure. These all are the intensive properties, student. Why they are intensive properties? Because their value, or you can say, they do not depends on the quantity or the size of the matters. Okay, student. Now the next point is the product ratio of the extensive properties is intensive. The product of ratio of two extensive properties, like that, for example, like the density is equal to mass by volume. So mass and volume are the extensive properties, but its ratio is what? Intensive property. So here, that is, density is equal to mass by volume. Okay, both are here is extensive, mass and volume, but its ratio is intensive. Okay, extensive properties is additive properties. Extensive properties is additive, while the intensive property is not additive properties. Now let us move on the and try to solve out the some of the problem based on the intensive properties, students. So let us, which are intensive properties? This is the question number one. So when you are going for the an intensive properties is bulk properties, meaning that it is a local physical property of the system that does not depend on the system size or the amount of material in the system. So that is, if any properties which is not depending on the size or amount of material present in the system, that will be what the student intensive properties. What are the example of intensive properties? Reflect temperature, refractive index, density, hardness of the object. These all are the example of intensive properties. Now let us move on another. Why temperature is intensive properties? The question is, why temperature is intensive properties? Because temperature do not depend on the size or quantity of material. That is why it is a intensive properties. Okay, let us have the look on the slide, student. And intensive properties does not change with the size of the system. Consider a block of steel, at a temperature. The now, if it is divided into two parts, okay, so it is the block, okay, having the temperature T. So if you are dividing into the two parts, student, if you are dividing this into two parts, suppose, horizontally, so what there, its temperature remain the same. Temperature is characterized by the kinetic energy of the molecule in it. So specific internal energy, which intensive property. So it will be the temperature, it will be also T, it will be also T. So that is, it is not depending on the volume, that is the amount or the size, because you are decreasing the size, but the temperature is remain the same. That is why the temperature is intensive property. Similarly, if you talk about the pressure, here the total pressure is P. If you are dividing this, in the two block, so even the pressure will be remain the PP, student. It is not getting changed. So if it is not getting changed, even you are doing the half of the material, so it will be the intensive properties. Now the pressure is intensive property. See, pressure does not depend on the number of particles being measured. Pressure can also be classically defined as the force per unit area. That is, force per unit area. The ratio of two extensive properties is intensive properties. Force is extensive properties. Okay, because F is equal to M into A. So both are the extensive properties, and mass is extensive properties as it depend on the number of particles. So that is why the ratio of two extensive properties should be what? Intensive. Another way we can understand that is, if any block is there and p total is there, student, p total, how much is there? P total, suppose p total is there is p. So if you are dividing this block into two half block, so remain you will get that is, you will be able to get the pressure is still will be the P only. So that it will be the pressure will be again the intensive properties. Now you see the some, diagrammatically I am trying to represent so that it will be helpful to you to understand with the diagrammatic visual way. So boiling point intensive properties, color intensity properties, temperature intensive property, luster, hardness, these all are the intensive properties. Even you can talk about the odor of the substance is also intensive properties. Melting point, boiling point, specific heat capacity, malleability, ductility, conductivity, density, pressure, these all are the intensity properties, student. So intensive properties of the matter. Types of intensive properties: color, odor, luster, melting, boiling point, specific heat capacity, malleability, ductility, conductivity, density, pressure. These all are the intensity properties. I hope it will be helpful, student. Thank you so much for watching. Just you keep in mind, student, extensive property depending on the matter, or amount of the size, but intensive properties it does not depend on the quantity of the matter and even on the size of the matter. So this is all about the intensive property. Thank you so much for watching, friends.